It's an engineering marvel, one of the world's most famous pieces of steelwork. But someone decided to turn the Sydney Harbour Bridge into a giant picnic spot. How could they possibly pull it off without bringing an entire city to a standstill? The bridge itself is the heart. It's the situations that arise on the bridge, things completely out of your control, and all of it had to happen on a tight schedule. Did they have any idea what they were getting themselves into? It's pretty spectacular. It doesn't just say Sydney. It says Australia to a national monument, a world icon, and also a vital part of this city's transport network. The bridge is accustomed to being roped in as an awesome backdrop when it's New Year's party time. Its reputation stands firm as the New Year's Eve capital of the world. But then came a plan to put the bridge itself center stage. They called it Breakfast on the Bridge, but they weren't just picnicking on a bypass. On October 10th, 6,000 people showed up to eat breakfast on the world's most extraordinary picnic table. Making this happen took months of effort, with dedicated task forces working frantically behind the scenes. Exactly how they managed it is an extraordinary story. It's a huge undertaking, isn't it? I never expected to see real grass. I thought it would be artificial. I can't believe it. I think the bridge defines Sydney. Many of us believe that if the bridge didn't exist, it would be a much different city. It's bringing the family together, having a day out, enjoying breakfast in the rain. Can it get any better? Happy birthday, dear Shri. Absolutely wonderful. The best experience ever. It's fantastic. Thanks, guys. Typical of the bridge, Sydney, the kids, just the atmosphere. Who cares if it rains? It can rain as much as it wants. Locals call it the coat hanger. This bridge, linking central Sydney with the city's North Shore, is the world's widest long-span bridge and the tallest steel arch bridge. It carries more than 160,000 vehicles and nearly 400 trains every day. 5 million commuters cross it each week. Without the bridge, the entire city would grind to a halt. Everyone in Sydney knows that. So to party on the bridge is, in a way, their method of saying thank you. Well, all of my life I've known it, and I grabbed this opportunity today. It's kind of part of our lives. I guess it's one of those things that every Sydney-sider would come and try to do. It represents connection between people, letting people connect with each other. Exactly what's happening here. I couldn't think of a better place to be having an occasion like this. The highlight of Sydney's Crave Food Festival, Breakfast on the Bridge, has been a staggering success. Even the rain couldn't dampen their spirits. Now it's time to clean up, and very soon the organizers can finally think about relaxing. We'll be following 3 task forces charged with getting the bridge into shape before October's deadline, preparing for the picnic, and giving this 78-year-old structure a major facelift too. With only 10 months to complete the work, it's a monumental challenge. The Transport Management Center, staffed by Steve and Tom, must keep traffic running smoothly 24/7. If something happens on the Sydney Harbour Bridge, it affects the whole city. That's how it works. Their events team is in charge of planning the picnic. Breakfast on the bridge may seem like a simple idea, but actually pulling it off on the bridge is huge. On bridge renewal and painting, Mirko from the Roads and Traffic Authority, RTA, knows it's easier said than done. It might sound simple, but there's a lot involved. Alongside Mirko is his son, Joe. Maintenance on the bridge is massive. On rail maintenance, Rail Corp's Nathan ensures the overhead power cables run safely, rain or shine, no matter the hazards. It's hard to gain access to the tracks for real work. As the deadline approaches, each team needs a solid game plan to finish their tasks while the bridge keeps functioning. The bridge's Transport Management Center, TMC, coordinates everything, from rush hour lane changes to emergency work. This year, they'll also move into a state-of-the-art control room and orchestrate several planned closures, including the big breakfast in October, and they must do it without compromising safety. RailCorp, overseeing all the trains that use the bridge, must install new overhead cables to power modern rolling stock, replace timber decking with concrete, and keep the railway up to standard, all before October. Meanwhile, a permanent team of painters must strip and repaint 10,000 square meters of the bridge without polluting the harbor. No one said it would be easy. Are they up to this monumental challenge? Rush hour on the Sydney Harbour Bridge, and thousands of people prepare to cross by train. Behind the scenes, 300 RailCorp staff have planned 4 two-day shutdowns, known as possessions, to ensure that nearly 3,000 trains a week can keep crossing safely. These closures allow critical repairs to the structure, wiring, cables, and track. For Chief Engineer Nathan Hoffmeister, overseeing overhead power cables with colleague Hassan, these possessions are like military operations. During this possession, they have just 48 hours to replace 2 main overhead power structure points. There's no room for error. We've got to disconnect both structures and replace them in the same spot. Our top priority is being ready by Monday morning. The second one is going to be a restart. The plan is to stick to a strict timetable, but whether they can pull it off is another question. As Sydney grew into one of Australia's greatest cities, the need to span the harbour, linking the city centre with the North Shore, became obvious. Erasmus Darwin, grandfather of Charles Darwin, suggested a bridge in 1791. No one listened. Ferries began service in 1830, and within 50 years they were struggling to cope. Perhaps old Mr. Darwin had been right. Then in 1891, John Bradfield joined the New South Wales Department of Public Works, becoming known as the father of the bridge. Under the bridge, Mirko and his team gear up for their challenge. 60-year-old Mirko Saravac has 17 years of experience as a specialist bridge painter. He's a top crew member. Mirko supervises a 10-man team that will paint 10,000 square meters in 4 stages this year. A key member is his son Joe, who's been on the job for a decade. Working on the Harbour Bridge, an icon he truly enjoys, makes Joe proud of his dad. Together they form a father and son team that inspires everyone. Like everyone working on the Sydney Harbour Bridge, they face a tight deadline. But for Mirko's crew, this mission is more like a trip to Mars than a simple paint job. Painting sounds too easy. They must strip away layers of old, highly toxic lead-based paint and replace it with eco-friendly paint that will last 25 years. First, they must erect sealed painting stages below the bridge. This takes 10 days but ensures no paint ends up where it shouldn't. At 0 hour, everyone dons safety suits with breathing gear to protect against poisonous fumes. Once you put all the slingers and hoses on, let me know, Mirko says. As the curtains rise and work begins, Mirko and Supervisor Waruna stay alert. Double curtains will contain noise, and if there's damage to one, the second protects against emissions. We don't want any emissions, Waruna insists. The team has their work cut out for them. Starting at the south pylon by the water's edge, they'll move slowly toward the southwest end of the bridge. This world-famous structure could have looked very different. In 1903, Norman Self submitted a design using an artificial island, but a change in government scrapped it after World War I. A new competition in 1921 drew global interest. The final design combined concepts from several sources, but the main credit went to John Bradfield. Inspired by New York's Hell Gate Arch, Bradfield insisted on an arch rather than a cantilever design. It would look better and cost less. English firm Dorman Long Co. won the contract. The bridge opened in 1932 at a total cost of $10 million. Traffic has flowed for 78 years, not always smoothly. Westbound incident on the Cahill Expressway before the tunnel. Southbound incidents in different areas. Steve Howie has worked at the TMC for 32 years. Peak hour goes by quickly because so much is happening. I start early with a coffee, sit down, and let's go. It's tough. On average, 5 to 10 incidents occur daily. To do my job well, I must stay calm. Things happen out of your control, so you just do your best with what's around. Tom is a supervisor sharing the workload. Working closely with Steve, he watches numerous cameras on the bridge. If anything happens, Tom alerts Steve immediately. Any incident on the bridge can impact the entire Sydney road network. Steve provides whatever resources Tom needs, even a helicopter if necessary. A minor incident can have a major ripple effect. The bridge is a critical crossing, with only about 7 ways to cross the harbour. If the bridge has trouble, it can affect all of Sydney. Tom has 2 big tasks: day-to-day traffic management and moving to a new high-tech HQ. They must ensure a smooth transition without any traffic disruption or safety compromise. We must ensure the new room's completed. The week before moving, we test all computer programs. Even then, we won't know if everything works perfectly until each console is being operated under full load. They can't afford mistakes. As Tom looks to the future, at midnight, RailCorp waits for the last train to clear before shutting the line. It's going to be a long night. Okay, right to take possession on the up and down lines between North Sydney and Central, clear of rail traffic. The switch is thrown, but there's a delay. A train is stuck in a section, so they're not on time. Already behind schedule, how will they meet the deadline? By midnight on the Sydney Harbour Bridge, rail work has started late. They have 48 hours total. Nathan must prioritize. They have critical tasks, and if they miss them, they can't run wire next time. If they don't reconnect by tomorrow, no trains run Monday. It's too late to go back now. Wiring becomes top priority. While Nathan wrestles with his problem, the TMC team also has a busy night. 3 of the 8 lanes are closed for bridge works, starting at 11 p.m. Tom plans future closures while Steve handles the present. They decide on a lane change to give more capacity northbound. They're like sheep, Steve jokes. One goes, the rest follow. Ian at the bridge's on-site office hears how traffic speeds up. The bridge is like the heart. Blockages stop the flow. Ian wants to keep the blood pumping. Meanwhile, TMC's Brandon McNally thinks about breakfast on the bridge. It might seem simple, but logistically it's huge. He must think of everything from toilets to garbage and how to get the turf onto the bridge. He's determined to avoid last year's mistakes. The Australian Traffic Network's chopper watches traffic flow. Sydney's traffic can change in minutes, so they constantly update conditions. From the air, they get a bird's-eye view. Good evening, it's Vic LaRusso. It's a great run out of the city tonight on the Harbour Bridge. A vital link in today's complex plan, the chopper aids in managing traffic. 70 years ago, no one imagined so much traffic. In 1934, 16,988 vehicles crossed, paying $619. Today, 10 times as many cross daily, raising $500,000 Australian dollars. Luckily, the original design can handle it. Bridge historian Caroline McInnes and surveyor Duncan Lees use modern technology to explore the bridge's secrets. Duncan's laser scanner can do in weeks what took months in the 1920s. The original survey teams, one British, one Australian, compared notes to ensure absolute precision. With Duncan scanning, Mirko and Joe progress towards the central arch. They're nearing the final stages of blasting. After blasting, inspectors check for leftover spots that need redoing before priming. Mirko's shouting keeps standards high. The inspection passes, and they can start painting. 4 coats take 16 days total, but it should be done on time. The TMC also has their own deadline, moving to the new control room. They'll do it in stages and test systems before the old room shuts down. It must be seamless. Everyone must know what's happening, and when they switch rooms, it should run the same as before. On the bridge, Duncan has a problem. Health and safety rules prevent him from certain angles. He must set up every 10 meters to get enough scans. Caroline and Duncan observe the complexity of the bridge's steelwork, rivets, and straight pieces forming a great arch. All 28 panels are straight pieces of steel. On each side, 14 panels were held back by massive steel cables until both halves met. They hung flags on the creeper cranes to celebrate when the 2 arches met. Sadly, 16 men died building the bridge. 1 man survived a 170-foot fall into the water because he knew how to hit it. Bad weather grounds the traffic chopper and causes trouble for Nathan, who finds damaged timber decking. Water damage requires urgent replacement. They'll encase timber in concrete, but high winds make it tough. Mirko's team also faces windy conditions, forcing a stop to painting. They are behind schedule again. At 4 a.m., less than a month before the big breakfast, both the painters and rail engineers are behind schedule. Nathan's team must complete a structural repair and replace 3 large steel stanchions untouched since 1932. With high winds at 50 knots, safety comes first. They must tackle critical items only. The wind drops, allowing them to finish their critical steel work. They did it. Mirko's crew, with spring's arrival, speeds up painting the final section. They apply the primer immediately after blasting to prevent moisture damage. 4 coats total, finishing with Harbour Bridge gray. After careful inspection, Mirko is pleased. They're done in time. The TMC's move plan, hashed out over 6 months, goes like clockwork. The new place is world-class, faster, and more efficient. With the HQ move done, breakfast on the bridge looms in just days. There's a lot to do. 11,000 square meters of grass, 50 toilets, and large flower pots must be placed on the bridge. Duncan's final scans will help maintain the bridge for years. His work shows this pre-computer era design is as good as anything we have today. It began with precisely laid foundations. They had to be perfect, or the whole bridge would fail. 6 million rivets weighing 3,500 kilos hold it all together. On the morning of the breakfast, 6,000 people are coming. The team must lay the grass by 5 a.m., then remove the trucks so other infrastructure can go in. It's going to be a long night. As the trucks finish delivering, Brandon grows nervous but hopeful he can soon relax and maybe have a bite himself. At their new HQ, Tom and Steve watch carefully. Ian feels proud calling the Harbour Bridge his office. The turf goes down on time. The city loves its bridge. People proposed marriage under it, got married beneath it, and see it as Sydney's true symbol. No matter the challenges, rain, wind, traffic, paint, or wiring, the Sydney Harbour Bridge stands as a testament to connection, identity, and celebration.